No,
So
no
okay,
worries, no worries.
so listen. Okay, let's start with that. You from Czech Republic,
Yeah,
and how what how old are you? You probably a similar age to me. You're born in the 80s, right? Early
yeah,
80s.
83. Yeah,
83. Oh, we're exactly the same age. What month?
April.
April. Okay, I'm November, so you're a few months older than me.
Right.
So, dude, are you your country's obviously gone through some pretty dramatic changes growing up.
Yeah, yeah. But that time I was pretty small. Like, I mean, I was a kid when this change in 89 came. I was like 6 years old. So like I didn't get, I think, too much out of it. But yeah, like looking at the things a bit retrospectively, and then you think like, okay, it works like this, and it worked like this, and then you hear this from parents and from the generation who spent most of their lives there back in the time. It was quite dramatic change. Yeah, sure.
And growing up in that environment, did you always have cars around? Was it a creative influence first, or how did you draw the conclusion to car design?
And listen, this was very very easy because you had all these cars from the East Bloc, right? Which was limited to, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 different types, not more. And basically this was the, like there were always some pictures around, and most of my family from my father's side is they are in US. They live in US, and so we always had some catalogs and something to dream about. And yeah, the cars, it was for sure like a big thing. And I think it was first time like when I was 4. Like, so what are you gonna do? What do you want to do? Like people are asking, and all these like stupid adult questions, and so like, yeah, I want to draw cars, and everybody was saying like, yeah, but this doesn't exist. I think the people were just so how to say screwed by the regime that they would not think that far. And I mean, as I'm coming from the like, very normal family, my parents didn't really have a chance to study like university, but still my mom, she used to be like she worked in the construction of the airplanes, and I think even my father, he has a bit of how to say, some artistic background which he didn't really develop in a later age. So I think it kind of came together, and I was kind of going for this, and I was just listening all the time. Yeah, but this doesn't exist. Just take something normal, like just go for something normal. I think it's very, very usual. So it's like either kind of car guy and either like a guy who doesn't have anything to do with the cars. And yeah, then it came to the point where I was supposed to decide like, what am I going to study after? I think I was like 18, and I started to kind of explore the ideas of, yeah, like how to get to some kind of art school. And the choice was kind of very limited because my focus was obviously for the cars, and in that corner there was not so many possibilities. And
Can I just ask quickly? Were you drawing a lot at this period, like in high school, for example?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm very thankful for this, for my teacher, or many teachers actually, who just let me do it. Even in the I don't know, like history or chemistry lessons. Like I could draw.
Oh wow.
So yeah, this was a kind of, there was some support for sure. And yeah, as it came to this point, like I had to decide. I have collected some informations from, like friends and magazines and stuff, and you start to also like find out about the schools what are like in London, and there is a school in Pforzheim, and it's like, yeah, but it's for 18-year-old dude, it looks so far, like, and it's like I didn't try even like, like I know like, okay, it's gonna be expensive, and it's like, yeah, whatever. And then I found out like about the school in Bratislava in Slovakia, and this is where I studied at the end. So there is automotive design. Our professor Stefan Klein, although he doesn't have experience from automotive industry, he was always able to bring some cool people from the companies and to start some cooperations with the companies. So
were these German companies, or were they local companies?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like mostly from Germany. So we had a cooperation with BMW and there was like even like, like people were coming kind of regularly. I mean, like maybe once or 2 months, once a month, so like 3-4 times per semester. So we could really meet like many of these stars we could just until then just read about, in some magazines. So this was really cool time.
Do you remember any of those guys that came to see you guys at university?
I think one of the best experience was like we had a final presentation of the like semester work with BMW, and we had a chance to present it to Chris Bangle.
Fuck.
And
amazing.
And this was just hilarious, like, like I think it was like second year, so third term, and like it was so impressive how he could easily beat us, with his arguments. So this was really nice experience.
Was that a positive interaction for you? Was it, you didn't feel like
no,
defensive or?
Because I think the main kind of asset from the studio was like people were just hungry, and the point was just to get somewhere for the internship and just to get into, step into the industry, and there was this vibe where people who really were interested in the cars, they pushed each other, and this was pretty massive. I mean, the energy behind it. So nobody took it as a, like, what does he talk about my design and what kind of, like, it was with a lot of respect, and everybody was like, yeah, he's right. Like, even if you didn't feel like in that moment, because somehow it's touching your work, where you spend your time, your energy into it. So I think in that matter, not only me, but also my schoolmates, I think we learned very quickly to put your ego somehow on the side and just listen to some feedback, because it was just, I tell you, like, it was kind of regular base, the visits, from the professionals, but it was still so rare, it's not like once a week or once in 2 weeks, and there are like more companies coming. It was like we've been just happy to see somebody, in our shitty studio with like little balls of clay on the wall,
Well, so what sort of period is this then? Like around 2002, 2003?
I think I
2001?
started in 2003.
2003.
And I stayed there for the bachelor and the master. The system in there is slightly different from, for example, German one. but I finished in 2009. Yeah.
Wow. I I mean, I only discovered this guy around that period, right? It was around 2003 actually, and I was at the time, as you know, there was no information online, and there was just all these like. There was car design news, but it was basically like a really shitty forum.
Yeah.
And then when I read about, I think I read about him in a Intersection magazine. I can't remember, but I remember Google like searching. I don't even know if Google was a thing at that time, but it's searching his name, and it was just like all these petitions like don't let this man destroy our beloved BMW, and there was like he had death threats and all that sort of stuff, and I was like, this guy's my fucking hero. I love him. Like it was I would have been amazing to meet him at that stage, you know. So and I still haven't, but it was such an inspirational man, and I the longer I spent in industry, you realize how much balls that guy had, but also not just stupid balls, but just he had the intellectual insight to be able to do something constructive with his vision.
Yeah, correct. I think maybe also it was the right time for that. I mean, not to underestimate any of your or of his skills. But I think when we shifted to nowadays into the world we live in, I think it would be much more difficult to convince people, like to just flip the language of the company into completely something else, and to just polarize so much. But it was crazy time. I mean, back in that time. So we're talking about this 2004 or 5. I think just everybody wanted to get to BMW. Like at least it was like in our studio at school. It was really just the dream of everybody.
Yeah. It was definitely, for me, it would have been the holy grail. I mean, it would have been an absolute dream.
True.
But do you not think that period was? I would say that the time now is it's obviously a completely different period, but I think that time was just as conservative as what it is now. I mean, I would say even more so. It just seems that now that there's so many options available as to where somebody can go, that people are nervous to make a move in any one direction. So they like try and hedge their bets every way around. And that's also a form of conservatism.
Yeah. I mean, even that time, I mean, look at those cars from that time, you know, like especially BMW before this Chris Bangle era. I mean, nice cars, but somehow very, you know, like, you know what to kind of expect, especially from nowadays point of view. And
the thing the term that I thought summed it up really well, I read this in a magazine, and they said that BMW was they were known for having like one sausage 3 different lengths. So
yeah.
So like 3, 5, and 7 series, and he was brought in to just destroy that. Again, that's what I read in the media. So I don't know how accurate that is, but I imagine there must have been some truth to that, given that he made such radical moves, you know, because for an American guy to go into this really conservative German organization, that they must have supported a lot of his visions. I mean, I don't doubt that he had to fight hard for that stuff, but they must have been open for it to an extent.
Sure. So yeah, but it seemed like a very, very cool time, especially in that company. And yeah, the shall we move on?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so okay.
No,
So
no.
no, it's okay. So we finished again. I think we finished at the same time. You finished in 2009, right?
2009, yeah.
And did you go straight? Did you go straight into Volkswagen from there?
Yeah, I mean, more or less, because I think I got my first internship. I mean, this was also part of the game. Like I think as most of the people, just going for the exterior all the time, and then I had offer to join interior for internship, and I was like, I don't know, like, and at Volkswagen, I was like, yeah, it seems like it's pretty boring, And this was in 2000. Wait, I think beginning of 2007, and they took my friend, and he came back after 6 months, and he said like, you know what? It's completely something else what you would expect. You have to go. So I did contact them again, and I got the internship for 6 months in interiors. And this was a time when I entered, like, like it was like a miracle, like I came in and there were like some cardboards with robots, like done mostly by the interior guys, and I was like, wait a minute, like, okay, this sounds pretty all right, And I think after, I don't know, 2-3 weeks there, I knew like I actually fit more to the interior, and I got one more chance to go for internship to exterior. I went to Skoda, and then I was sure, like, okay, it's interior, and then I applied. So I got my master degree got sponsored from Volkswagen, and this was already in 2009, and I finished in summer.
Where did you do that?
In Wolfsburg.
In Wolfsburg.
Yeah.
Where? In the company?
In the company, yeah, in interiors.
So how does that work? So this is not an internship. This is actually you doing a master's program.
It was, I don't know, I think it was kind of well timed, and nobody actually knew at my school. I mean, the school is very traditional art school, and the design it's kind of weird unicorn up there in the corner. And when I told them like, okay, I get actually the chance to go for internship, they said like, yeah, okay, you can do it, but we have to find out like about some individual studying plan, because you of course have to fulfill all the requirements from the side of the school. And then I came back. I was like, I have another internship, and I said like, okay, that starts to be like a bit cheesy, And then I came back and I said, okay, I have degree, and they want to sponsor me, and I have a chance to do the model and whole project at the company. And I think that time my professor kind of pushed for it, because he saw that if you have this chance, you are already like kind of by one step inside of the company. And for him was, like important that just that the guy gets the job after studies. And so this is how it worked. I mean, a bit kind of sideways and overtaking some rules, but it worked.
But what did the program actually consist of? Did they have academic people coming into the company to kind of?
No.
So how did that work?
It was just separate. It was just separate, like the school stuff. I think it's still like nowadays. Like if you have it's like nowadays, like if somebody is doing his degree at school at the company, still needs to bring it to the school, and basically just needs to present his work, So my work was judged at the company by the professionals, and then at the school by some academics.
But was this still with your former university?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. I understand. I think I understand. So, you spent time at in the interior department at in Wolfsburg. Is that where you met Janko? Obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And you guys are pretty tight, right? Are you
I
still
mean,
in touch?
we are friends. I mean, we are not so much in touch at the moment, since I left that area. But from time to time, just it's hard to keep up with everything and everyone. But definitely, I have to say, him and few other guys were for my work and also for my side projects the most influential, for sure. Thanks for that, guys.
Shout out to Janko and co. You also did a bit of teaching while you were in Braunschweig. Do you want to talk a bit more about that and what you learned out of that process?
I did it, I think, for some 3 or 4 years, and I think there was a kind of tradition that, like, there was always somebody coming to this Braunschweig school from the professionals, since it was like around the corner. So I took it from one colleague who moved to Berlin, and then he took it from some other colleague who didn't have time to do it, and so it was actually quite new experience. Like, like, I'm trying to develop myself as a professional, and then, like, okay, now you have to talk to the kids, and like, okay, what do we do? What do we talk about?
Were you scared? Were you nervous?
I think the first time was like, okay, what the hell? Yeah, kind of, sure. But then when you see those kids as yourself, like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, then it's clear, like, they are just hungry. They just want to do things. And but on the other hand, a bit of the downside in I see it in this total long term, this 3-4 years what I was doing it, like, I think the interest in car design went really down. And at the end, I don't know if they have this program. I don't think.
No, I think it's finished now, as I understand it.
Yeah, and I remember my last year I was doing it. It's like, I think the guys who were some, you have always, let's say, 10 to 20% of the guys who you think, okay, they are good, and they're gonna make it because no matter what, they just want to do it. And I had a feeling like all these guys from one semester, they just left to either like Pforzheim or somewhere else. And I think then it was really over. I don't remember the year, maybe like 2014, 15, could be more or less.
Do you remember any of the students that were there when you left, or when they left?
It's funny because I'm meeting these people like all the time.
Really? And you don't remember them?
There is a guy, like, who came to our studio, like, at Hyundai, like, I think like 3 years ago. And he was my colleague, for, I don't know, 2 years, I think. And basically, like, I see these people, like, in some point, like, everywhere, every time. And it's a cool thing, Like, when they come, it's like, yeah, what we did was cool, and it was like, it helped a lot, and it's a good thing. So it was for something.
With regards to you going into that kind of academic environment, does somebody show you like this is how you structure a class, or are you there to kind of just answer and show them how to sketch?
So this was like really, we didn't say, I think it was a sketching class. So once a week, we met for, I don't know, like 2 hours, open end. And basically they worked on some project, and they brought the work, and we've been just saying like, okay, this is a good stuff, this is not a good stuff, like let's improve this one. So at the beginning I had to I think these professors, I had to show them that I have some plan, and I had to show my portfolio and basically what am I going to do with these kids. But it mostly turned out as some kind of consultation, you know, like, so they brought their work and we just talk about it and kind of resketched some themes and I gave them some tips. Just how to get better.
I think it's so invaluable as a student to get that kind of input and that kind of advice, because you can waste a lot of time by trying to second guess what you think another a design boss or a studio or somebody wants to see. Even to get an internship can be incredibly challenging, right? And you still, even at that stage, it's you're competing against other people for those internships. It's not like you can go to call up a company and go like, okay, cool, I'm going to do you a favor and come and intern for you for free. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like, the company is still, at the end of the day, there's this debate. I think, you know, students should get paid, at least to kind of cover their expenses. But you know, you are getting a lot out of the business and the professionals around there in that process. So or during that period. So there is a competition, and they are not going to waste their time with somebody that's got substandard skills. They want to see potential. So I think those interactions that academic institutions have with people like yourselves and other professionals are invaluable.
You can see some, I mean, if I see my path, it was like maybe like 3 steps, you know, like you start to sketch based on something what you see somewhere in some magazine back in the time, / internet coming into the game. And then you get accepted for the university. So that's another shift where you're playing the same game with, you know, your colleagues, and you can push each other, and somebody knows this and somebody knows that, and somehow you can melt it together. And I think the third is really just to enter the company. And it doesn't matter in which form. I think as an intern is a good opportunity, and this is what I misunderstood back in the time when I told you, like, I refused once the interior internship at Volkswagen. It doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. I mean, for whoever interested in car design, I think you just have to step in and, you know, get yourself kind of comfortable and use the contacts. And it doesn't mean that you are in interior, you cannot talk to exterior guy or to whoever your interest is. So that's I think these 3 levels. And then you start to kind of compare yourself. You always have to go and compare yourself with the best, right? What is there. So also in the company, you need to see the best guy, and you need to kind of, I don't know if to compare is the right word, but
try and close that gap between where you are and Zdenek, what is your stance on like hardcore interior versus hardcore exterior? Do you think it's important to experience both?
I think it's not for everybody. What I understood in my work when I joined interior first time, it's funny because they really took me for the internship of interior. I never sketched interiors before. I never had single, like not one interior in my portfolio. And but I think the point is, I know, for example, I was always building stuff, how to say, out of some little details and stories, and less interest in some like big gesture of the exterior. I think it works afterwards. You get this logic in interior. I think you can, in some point, you can shift it to the exterior, because you can see in interiors you have like many details, like what I used with the students. I was told once, like, it doesn't matter if the IP panel is like this big, you know, like it's like 5 centimeters, it's like a key of the car, or if it's like 6 meters big and you sculpt it and it's exterior of the car. So I think when you learn how to shift between these, let's say, scales, I think this is where it starts to be very interesting. So it works also backwards. So you can, I think interior guy, I don't say it's easy for me, but I think it's easier for interior guy to sketch exteriors than the other way around. With all the respect to exterior guys. But if you see it as an interior, or as a part of the interior, you can make a doodle, which is, you know, like you can use like some little post-it. You can do, you know what I mean? Like it's play with the scales.
Right. I just want to go back to what you said before with having like with interiors being made up of little details versus exterior being one kind of gesture. I think that's a very interesting analogy, and I didn't. I have obviously thought about it that way, but I haven't ever heard somebody articulate it like that. And I think it's a really good way for somebody that is maybe inexperienced to understand the different challenges with those things. Because what you're saying is, there's a really good saying. I think it was. I speak under correction, might have been Mark Newson, I think. But he was saying that he likes interior design from the point of view that it's like a bunch of different products to make up one cohesive unit. Yeah. And he didn't talk about exterior design. I don't know if it was him, so I speak under correction. But that so you've got a steering wheel, you've got an IP, you've got door cards, you've got a center console. And all of those things need to talk to each other to create this one holistic environment. Mm-hmm. And with the exterior, that also has very, very, it's also a bit of a dark art, because you have this very, very complex sculpture that needs, you've got like a rear end, you've got a body side, and you've got a front, you've got a top, and all of this also is kind of, these are separate things in their own right, but they also need to make one clean gesture or one cohesive gesture. So that's a very interesting way to describe those things. I didn't quite understand what you were talking about with regards to scale.
I have an example. An example would be like when I was doing my internship, I got into one project was a gear shifter for, I don't remember, some car. And another project kind of parallel to this was a seat. So I was just sketching the seats. And another kind of parallel project, I mean, they've been kind of overlapping, was the full interior, the full like IP, door, center console, and just to develop like one theme. And I think it's something where you apply this scale game. So you can see the gear shifter. You can sculpt it in a way as a I don't know, even part of the seat when you scale it up. And then you can say, okay, I make the seat and I take the you can make interior out of it.
I think I've got a. I think I understand what you're saying, and I think I've got quite a good example of that. If you look at if you compare architecture to shoes, you could have like a Zaha Hadid building that could, in theory, that same sculpture scaled down could make up a pair of Yeezys by Kanye West, for example, right? That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
So the thing is, the process in simple terms is still the same. And the gestures are all the same thing, but different scales is what is.
At least this is what helped me to understand how I make the things, because if you would tell me like you sketch the shoe, and on the other hand, somebody tells you like you do a house in the same style, you would be just scared, of that big scale. And this is what helped me at the beginning, just to kind of overcome this kind of fear of something which I don't know, and you try to apply something what you already know. And and coming back to the exterior, I always had the feeling like it could be also part of this game. Of course, until some moment in the process, because of course you come from like some kind of big gesture, and you go down to, you start to do some details and some sculpting of some different parts, and you try to keep them coherent. And then in the very last moment, you add all the sparkle as a lights and all the details. And that's how I see when you ask like the difference between exterior and interior. So
Okay.
my humble opinion on this.
Okay. Zdenek, let's move on to your side project. It's a very, very interesting thing. It's a very interesting time for that sort of thing as well. And I think that I'm going to let you explain what that is and, talk about that. What is it called, first and foremost?
Do you mean the popsicles? These
Yes.
virtual popsicles?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say virtual popsicles. Yeah, right. Well, I think it's. I had many on my way, many of different side projects, and of the things which bring a bit of. It's difficult to actually explain what brings some kind of joy into already a bit of funny life and dream job. But we all know, I think, like it always can bring some at the end it's a job, right? And I always needed in general something where I am the boss. That's it's finished when it's finished. I do whatever I want, and just nobody's reviewing it, just like, there it is.
Just 110% total creative
Exactly.
freedom.
Yeah.
Okay.
And coming to these popsicles, I think it started last year in the first lockdown, and it was very tiring moment of like home office, and everything was like settling down. Everybody knows.
But hold on, before we get into how that came about, can you just for everybody at home that maybe hasn't seen this before, the account is called SQ Baker, right, on Instagram.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so if you look at that, I'm just going to describe what I see. When I open that up, there's all these like beautiful digital popsicles, basically, really nice rendered. Like you want to lick it, but it's like it's clearly digital. There's all these details and sci-fi elements to it. So yeah, I think that's the best way that I can describe it. What is SQ Baker?
It's nothing really. The point was, yeah, I have this idea. I have to start it on daily basis. I have to just get it out, and I changed the name on the fly, and I didn't.
Okay.
So, and it stayed like this because.
But how did you come up with the concept of a popsicle? Did you want to practice rendering, or what was it?
I was thinking for a bit about something where I don't want to have, like my kind of develop my portfolio on Instagram or something, but it has to be like just pure, let's say, kind of art. And I think the popsicle it came up in my some previous projects as well. Like, I think it's a good form. It's very simple. It could be like very clear. So even if you go completely off the way, you can make it in the shape of whatever, and you can say it's a popsicle, and it's a popsicle.
And it's not wrong. Yeah, it can never be wrong.
Nobody can say anything, And yeah, this is how it came out. I said, okay, the story was, there was this lockdown, March 2020, and as I was saving some time not to commute to the office, and I was like, okay, I need some quick eye candy I can do, because I obviously didn't have time and energy for my other project. And I was like, okay, I do this, and I spend 20 minutes every day just by making kind of visual diary of each day. And yeah, and this is the back story. So I spend, okay, from time to time it's a bit more, but I try not to spend too much time. So there was really for a long time was like, I do it for 20 minutes per day, and I hit the render. Doesn't matter if it's finished or not. I just have to finish it in that time, and I have to kind of build up some kind of framework in my head.
So 20 minutes being modeling time and setting up the scene in whatever it is that you render.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what are you modeling them in? Don't say in Alias.
No.
No.
It's done and rendered actually in Vectory. It's a kind of 3D tool for 2D designers. But meanwhile, I came to the point where I found like it's very powerful. Their render engine is actually complete overkill for what people are using it for. And time by time, I think I just learn how to do things quickly. So sometimes I think about something and I think, okay, if I do this, if I do that, and it's not about just the geometry, but even as setting up some materials, I kind of think about it during the day, and then I try it in the evening, and then it works. It's cool, you know. And this is how it starts, kind of the ignition for this engine running. So it's a kind of autopilot.
I think that's very interesting because, you know, sometimes if you want to talk about side projects, and I think a lot of us have this thing of like, I'm gonna create this fucking awesome interior, exterior with all these details and this big project and render it in this fancy scene, and then maybe even animated and whatever. And the vision that you got in your head gets so big that quite often we end up not doing any of that stuff. And I've got a bunch of projects that have not got anywhere because of wanting to bite off too much than you can chew. And I have to say, I've got quite a lot of satisfaction just out of doing the thumbnails recently for the podcast, because I know that I'm like, and I never have a clear objective about what it's going to come up with in the end, but I know when it's not working, and I know when it kind of comes together, and I have a lot of fun with it because it's just the right amount of mental energy to create something that wasn't there before. And even though I am taking images from different places that I didn't create, but the mix of all of that stuff is somehow something new. And I'm by no means comparing what you do to that, but I can relate to that. I have fun with it, and I've got no stress when I think about. I can do it on autopilot. I listen to a podcast or music or whatever the case is, and I do it. And it could, in theory, take me 20 minutes, but more often than not, it ends up taking me 2 hours, because you end up playing with it and you get caught up in the details. But I think it's a really brilliant exercise to get that that creative itch out of your system.
Yeah, it is. So if you say so, I mean, I think those are basically my thumbnails.
Okay.
It's something where you adapt, as you said, like I have this much energy and this much time and energy for this level of complexity of the things. And apart from this, I mean, I think I am the master of having some creative ideas, starting the project and never finish it. So I think everybody has it somehow.
Right. But how did you end up with this program?
The program, I know some guys who started the company, and one day they asked me like, yeah, if you have some kind of project, just test it out and give us some feedback. And I went deeper and deeper and deeper, and this is how it came out.
So how exactly does it differ from a normal 3D program then?
I think in a for example, like modeling some geometry, you can go as well quite far, but obviously doesn't have complexity of, I don't know, Blender or Maya. Also in terms of, I don't know, how you structure your project and all the layers and object lister. There are some functions which are a bit limited, but you can find a way around it if you want. But the power is as well like by Blender, but you can do everything in one shot. So there is no Photoshop on my stuff, on SQ Baker. It's really just, I think, like maybe 99%. I mean, 1% would be some Photoshop on some, but basically it's really the render, how it comes out from the software. And the power of this one is really just, I mean, I was trying to use it as well at work for some kind of like little mock-ups and just to do some visual, like, I don't know, UX stuff. Yeah, there are some, as I said, some limitations for our actual work. And also the reason why I would probably try to keep it a bit disconnected, because it's just a pure joy, you know?
Yeah. No, I can totally relate to that. And I think another great example would be if you take Instagram as to what its original intended purpose was, you know, where it was just like anybody can take a photo, anybody can decorate it, and, you know, the idea is to not overthink it and just do it. And I'm not devaluing your work by comparing it to that, but that sort of that limitation that somebody's, you know, it's almost like the decision's being made for you in some respect. It's like, I don't have to go make this complex body side. You know, I'm going to take this simple form and that's done. Like, I don't need to think about that anymore. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, what colors am I going to apply to it? How am I going to split it up? What graphics am I going to add to it? It's a great way to expend your mental energy.
And it's also a kind of a process, you know. It's when you start to think about some. I was for sure not so good with this software a year ago. There was a moment where, okay, now I start to think also about some animations, and this I would have to switch into something else. But it's definitely, I can see the path. Okay, I learned this, I learned that. I never thought I could do it. And even if it's in this like small complexity of some daily visual, I know it can just bring me somewhere. I don't know where it is, but I enjoy the process just so much, you know.
Yeah.